and we're always in so much rush. Like it has to happen now. Like I'm going to lose 5 kilos a month for the rest of the year. Why? Like, and then people start getting desperate. They start to maybe starve themselves, train too much, something that you're like, oh, you're white knuckling through it. You're holding your breath just to get through the end of the year. What happens? You go, and you can't anymore. And then you gain all the weight right back. It's better to make good habits that will get you to the life that you want, whether it is staying active or getting a position, getting a job, playing with your kids, playing with your grandkids, whatever it is that you want to do. You want to not hold your breath for that date. You want to make it so that you can do it always.
I'm Shreya Parekh, and you're listening to Empower Her, the podcast for busy women aged 35 and beyond. If you're feeling stuck and unfulfilled with your health and wealth, get ready to be empowered to take action. My guests and I will be providing you with knowledge, resources, and ideas to help you broaden your perspectives, learn more about yourself, and define your path to live your absolute best life. Be sure to hit that follow button to stay tuned with Empower Her and check out the valuable free resources available on the website to support your journey. Are you struggling to stay motivated and mentally prepared to achieve your goals? Life's challenges such as caring responsibilities, health issues, menopause, and other external factors can often derail our focus. But it doesn't have to be this way. Join me for an inspiring conversation with Asdis Hjalmsdottir, a 3-time Olympian and mental performance mentor. Asdis will share insights on how to strengthen your mind and boost your performance, helping you to overcome obstacles and stay on track. Get ready to be inspired and take action towards your goals. Asdis, welcome to the Empower Her podcast. It's fantastic to have you on. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because there are so many times, me included, where there's something that I want to do, something that I want to achieve, but I don't quite get there for lots of reasons. So this is what we're here to talk about with you. Please, could you talk a little bit about your journey from what you were doing to what you're doing now? That would be great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. Oh, yeah. Isn't this a problem that everybody has? I think everybody listening is probably familiar with it. Yeah. Well, to give a short background, I used to be a javelin thrower, a world-class javelin thrower. I'm actually a triple Olympian. I did that for 20 years. And I retired. It's coming up on 4 years ago. So it was in 2020. What was supposed to be my 4th Olympics, but then we all know what happened and everything got postponed. So I retired 4 years ago. But before I retired, so I am a pharmacist and I have a PhD in immunology. But before I retired, like a year before, I decided that I wanted to do something along with my training. Like I had always been studying. And in 2018, I finished my PhD, and then I was only training after that. And I moved to Sweden, where my husband lives. And I wanted to do something more. So I decided I couldn't get a full-time job. I decided to start giving motivational talks. I decided to start sharing my experience, everything that I have learned during my career, and talk about goal setting and mindset, because I found that so important. And so I started with that more as just something fun to do on the side. And that kind of spiraled from there, and I just kept growing, and I'm still doing that. And I both go into for companies and organizations, but I also speak a lot to sports groups and for athletes. And then I decided to dive even deeper into that and to help athletes with their mindset. But my focus has always been on especially the mental aspect of, sport, but the same goes for life itself. It goes for everything in life. And especially this, what that you just mentioned, like how do we stick to it and get done what we want to get done? How do we set goals and how do we achieve them and, stay motivated and do the work? Yeah. This is what everybody is fighting with, is athletes, everybody. Yeah. And that's really what I have been focusing on. And to the point that when I retired in 2020, I kept doing this. And now I do this for a living. I am a public speaker, and I'm a mental performance mentor for athletes, and I'm working with this. So yeah, that's basically what I do right now. So it's my backstory, where I am and how I got here. But yeah, should we dive into how you get things done? Or
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're here to do, for sure.
yeah, I mean, sorry.
No, I mean, I was just going to ask you, what is the process? I know you've been through a process for sure.
Absolutely.
And of course, with your experience from what you've learned to what you have achieved, there are lots of women and lots of people out there in general, wondering what the process is. And could you talk and dive into that?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I mentioned the goals before. Like, you have to have clear goals. You have to know where you want to go. But in order to be able to achieve your goals, they need to inspire you. Like, it needs to be something that sets you on fire. Yeah, you're not going to be able to be motivated all of the time, and you still have to stick to it, and you have to stay consistent even when you're not motivated. And to be able to do that, you have to be chasing something that matters to you. It can't just be, I mean, it's okay to set goals, to just something that you're aiming for you don't really care about, but then you also have to accept that you might not get there.
Yeah.
It's just something to aim for. But if you really want to do it, then you have to, figure out, what is it that sets me on fire, and what do I really want to do? And then you have to commit to doing the work. And that is something that happens in a moment. That is a decision that you need to make with yourself. I always thought it was so interesting when I was, doing my PhD or my master's, and I was training, and everybody was always saying, oh, you're doing so good. You're so hardworking, going to training every day. I could never do this. And I never understood this. I just thought, what do you mean? Like, it's a no-brainer for me. I don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, should I go to training today? Like, you don't wake up and think, should I go to work today? Like, it's that kind of, that was the level of commitment. Because to me, it was the same. To me, it was just, this is what I have decided that I'm doing. And I don't have to make that decision over and over again every day. I've made that decision. I've committed to it, and I'm doing it. So, and then that's what you really need to do. You find something that you want to commit to. It needs to mean that much to you, and it needs to matter that much to you. And then you can set goals to get there, so that what do I need to do, today and next week, like the next month, in order to get to that big goal that I want to get to. You need to have milestones on the way. You can't just have that one humongous goal and it feels so far away. It gets so overwhelming, and you're like, oh, I'm so far away from it. I'm never going to get there. Like, it doesn't work. So you have to break it down into milestones to stay motivated.
So I have a question on that.
Go for it.
Well, look, you mentioned about you don't wake up and think, I'm not going to go to work today. Now, my theory on that is, well, it's not a theory, but my take on that is, a lot of people go to work because they pretty much have to. Otherwise, they're going to get fired or not bring in right. So there's that incentive there. It's the income that they're getting to pay for the bills or pay for whatever it is their lifestyle is. So they really don't have a choice in that, in the sense that they have a choice to get a different job, get more money, and things like that if they wanted to. But that's that kind of accountability part. You are accountable to that company and your manager. Otherwise, you will get fired and you will no longer earn that money. But when you want to do something like, let's do a very simple example. I want to, I'll give an example of me. Okay. I want to be able to go to the gym at least, 5 times a week. That is my goal, so that I become physically stronger and be able to lift more than my body weight. That's
okay.
But that very rarely happens consistently. Because I do not have anyone that I'm accountable to apart from myself. And I wake up in the morning, shall I go? I'm really tired. I had a really bad sleep because I'm, menopausal and I don't feel great and I'm not going to go today. I'll go tomorrow. I promise I'll go tomorrow.
Yeah, it's actually great that you took this example, because then you need to go even deeper. Okay, you say you want to go to the gym 5 times a week to be healthy, to get stronger. Why do you want that?
Because there's a few things. When I leave the gym, I feel great.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good. That's one thing. And I want to do it for my future self as well. I know that as I'm getting older, making sure my muscle mass and things like that don't drop to, it's not going to be good for me. So I need to make sure that as I'm getting older, in my, 50s, 60s, 70s, and hopefully much longer, I'm strong enough and healthy enough to have a fulfilling life, being able to do the things I want to do as I get older.
Exactly. And that's where you need to focus on. And then you need to go, okay, what does that look like? What are these things that I want to be able to do? You need to go like 7 layers of why. Why do I want to be able to do things there? And what is it that I want to do? And you need to make that picture clear. And that's the picture that you need to focus on. That's what you need to think about. You first, when you're like, oh, I'm waking up and I'm tired and I don't want to go to the gym, I'll go tomorrow. Instead, it's like, no, I'm going to feel so good when I'm done. And also that picture, that thing that I want to be able to do when I'm 70, I want to work towards that today. And I won't get there if I always say tomorrow. So this is what you kind of need to do. And you need to get that picture of where you want to get so clear, because that's ultimately what motivates us, because it's so easy. We are programmed to decide comfort now, or like reward now over reward later. Yeah. So we need to bring that reward that comes later into the present and focus on it now. And this is a conscious thing that you need to do. I mean, believe me, I did not always feel like going to training. Yeah. I did not always want to do it. When I was waking up, I was so sore. I could barely get out of bed and I was so tired. I had been studying and I had a full day ahead of me. And, I just wanted to sleep. I didn't not go to training because that was a thing that I had decided to do. And I mean, like you say, you have this level of commitment to your job. When you apply for that job, or when you take on that job, you are committing to showing up. And you're right, there's somebody else accountable, but you can also, the accountability part is you can get somebody to help you achieve your goals, to be your accountability partner in the exact same way. Somebody that checks in on you. So how's it going? How many times did you go to the gym this week? This just somebody that comes in there. Yeah. And it needs to be important enough. I can tell you that, I mean, I retired 4 years ago, and then I actually have had 2 children in the meantime. So I've been busy, but my younger son is now 1.5 years old. And last year, when he was about 6 months, when I was starting to train again, I started just training. And I mean, it was a busy life with 2 small children. It was so easy to just, I'm so tired. He was waking up a lot last night. I'm so tired. I'll go tomorrow. Exactly like you're describing. And because my priorities have shifted, I'm no longer chasing that big goal with my training. Then I allowed myself more often, like, okay, my main focus right now is to be present for my children and to be, energetic and as much as I can. So I can't always go and finish off all that energy in the gym. So sometimes it is worth it to rest. And actually, when I wanted to get back into training, I had to find a new goal to work towards. Funny story, but I actually I competed in weightlifting just for fun now in May, because I had to have some goal to work towards with my training. It wasn't enough for me to just, I want to go to training and get tired. It wasn't enough. But since I don't have that same level of commitment to the sport or to training as I used to, it is not a non-negotiable in my life, in this season of my life. Even though, so it's not just I am the person that always trains every day, no matter what. I have my priorities shift and then my focus shifts. And there are other priorities that are non-negotiable at this moment. And that's just because I don't have this huge important goal with this right now. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this changes, and that's why it's so important to find something that, you really, really, really want.
Yeah. And I guess you're talking about, being realistic as well. So,
Yes.
It's kind of a lot of women with caring responsibilities, whether that's with the elderly or children, or, women that are going through different stages of their life or having health problems, anything,
Yeah.
it's about looking, what can I do? Because if you go for what you used to do, I'm going to go training every single day, no matter what. Realistically, I mean, I can't. Realistically, there's no way I can do that, because I have children and I have some things I have to prioritize. So I guess you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in the beginning by setting unrealistic goals.
I mean, you have to think about, okay, here is how much energy I have. And I can't, do 15 things and do them all really well. It's just, I don't have the capacity for it. It's just impossible. It's very nice to say it. It's very nice to set those goals. It's like, I'm going to, sleep this much, and I'm going to train every day, and I'm going to be a great mom, and I'm going to have this great career, and I'm going to do it all at the same time. And, it's very easy to say these things, but if you're realistic, if you take a look at it, and I had to do this now, I have a very, very busy season coming up for me now in the fall. And then I was thinking, should I do another weightlifting competition in October? And I just had to sit down and just, no, this is not realistic. This is going to be too much. Something has got to give. And I need to choose what it is, because otherwise, life will somehow choose for me. Like if I would force myself, and this is unfortunately what a lot of women do. You're forcing yourself because you have to do all of the things, and then you're exhausted. And when you're exhausted, who suffers? Your relationship, your marriage, your children, because you can't be present. You can't be, well, I have to speak for myself at least. I can't be a pleasant person when I have no energy and when I'm exhausted. So that is why right now I have decided it's my priority and most important for me to maybe train a little bit less in this season of my life. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still moving. I can't sit still. But I train a little bit less. Then my training looks different. It's not as intense. It's not as hard. And I want to have energy left over so I can play with my little boys. I don't want to, spend all my energy in training and then I'm exhausted and I can't play with them, or I'm irritated with them when they're throwing their tantrums and I can't be patient because I finished my energy in training. That's not fair towards them. And that's not the kind of mom that I want to be. So that's my priority right there. I know I can't do it all. It would be amazing, but it's just not possible. So you have to think, okay, what is most important to me? And that's what your goal should be. That's why it's not just, okay, I have a super busy life. I can barely sit down to breathe as it is. And now I'm going to add on top of that going to the gym 5 times a week. You have to be realistic with just the amount of energy, how you splitting up your energy cake, so to speak.
Yeah, I like that energy cake.
Yeah, it's like there are only so many slices. And the size of these slices, if one is bigger than another one, has to be smaller. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That is also the thing. You don't have to do everything all of the time. You don't.
Yeah.
Society tells us that we have to, but we don't.
It's that mental shift. And I know you talk a lot about, the mind. So can you dive in a little bit, talk a bit about that, how your mind can really shape the way you take action and set your goals and achieve, really, because the end goal is to achieve your goals. Obviously, the first thing is set the realistic goals. Yeah, don't over like me with the 5 times a week going to the gym.
This was not pointed towards you.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know what your life looks like.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, I do need to take a step back and think what's realistic for me, because sometimes, like you say, a lot of women, we we want to go to work, we want to do, raise our kids, we want to have a social life, we want to do that, we want to do everything. But then, unfortunately, especially in the UK, the setup is very different. For women to go to work, it's difficult then trying to raise your children because childcare is so expensive and this is so expensive, and there's so much stuff going on. But anyway, back to the mind. How do you really change your mindset? I know you focus a lot on the mind, and so I'd like to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a huge part of it. But I just want to speak briefly on this thing that you set with a goal, because, when you set goals over and over again and you constantly come up short and you don't achieve your goals, that will ultimately break down your confidence. So that's why this thing with the realistic goals, it's like, okay, if I am constantly, now I'm just going to take your example. I hope you don't take it personally, but you just handed it to me on a silver platter. So, okay, let's say my goal is to go to gym 5 times a week, but I can't stick to it and it's just not happening. Okay, maybe I am being unrealistic then. How about I start with 3 times a week or 2 times a week? When that starts to be easy, I will add one day. Maybe eventually I will get to 5. Maybe that's just too much for my life right now. But instead of, trying to go for 5, and then I would decide date and day and time, and just at, 4:00 on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, I go to training. That's it. It's my non-negotiable. This is what I did with my training. It's like you decide when it's going to happen, because later or tomorrow can happen so easily. Yeah. So you start there. And when you do it, that gives you the confidence. It's like, yes, I can do it. And you're feeding, this is a positive feedback loop, and it builds you up instead of being in the negative feedback loop and constantly breaking yourself down. And I have heard it so many times. There's so many people that even get to the point where I'm just not the type that can set goals and achieve them because I failed so many times. I have proven to myself that I can't do this. It's like, no. You just did a little bit wrong. Yeah. It's no problem. You can do this. Just did a little bit wrong. So that's why keep them realistic. And that can mean take them down. Take your expectations down. Build yourself up. Have those milestones on the way and focus on your why. But speaking of the mind, that is so important in all of this, because how you feel, this motivation to actually go out and do it. You described this oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I don't want to go. This is how you talk to yourself. This is the things that you're saying to yourself. And we constantly have this dialogue in our head. There's always something going on. I've seen multiple figures of this. I guess it's difficult to really measure, but we have tens of thousands of thoughts going through our head every day. And these thoughts, they affect how we feel, and how we feel then ultimately affects how we behave and what we do. So if you are having a problem, this thing with the mindset, you can the emotions, the thoughts and the emotions is usually where it is. You can actually take a step in, and this is one of the tools that I use with my athletes and in my coaching. It's just self-talk. You decide what you're going to say to yourself, and that is your thoughts. You say the things that are going to make you feel the way you want to feel, and then you will behave or do the things that you want to do. But it all starts with the thoughts. I mean, it is all tied together, but this is not something that is just happening and you have no control over it. You can actually step in there. And I mean, there are a lot of techniques of how actually to do it in different scenarios. But the most important thing is to plan it ahead of time, because you're going to find yourself in a situation, you start thinking a certain thing, and you need to be prepared, because when you're in that space, when the negative thoughts have already started coming, then it's already affecting how you're feeling, and you're not going to be able to turn it around. Yeah. So this is why you just have to, and it's so simple. It's just writing down a sentence, super short, preferably just a few words. this is what I'm going to say to myself when I wake up super tired and I don't feel like going to training. Or when I'm about to go, like, let's say I'm going to go at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock, or I don't know if you go in the afternoon or lunchtime or what you do. When it's getting closer and I start thinking like this and it comes up, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm not going to go. Then I'm going to say these things to myself. And the funny thing is that our brain is so simple. We can only think about one thing at a time. We women don't like to admit this, but it's the truth. We can only think about one thing at a time. So if I am repeating the sentence in my head, I can't be thinking anything else at the same time. This takes practice. You don't just try this the first time and you can focus on it and it's going to be fine. It takes practice. But if you're saying something that motivates you or is going to make you feel the way you want to feel, if you repeat that sentence in your head, you cannot be thinking, oh, but I'm so tired, at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's a matter of finding the right sentence. That can also be trial and error, because you might say, okay, I'm going to say this to me. And then it doesn't have the effect that you were hoping for, or like you don't really believe it, or, whatever. Then it's not just like, oh, this doesn't work for me. Throw it out. No, then it's just like, okay, this didn't work. How can I tweak it? What could I say differently? How did that make me feel? Oh, okay, maybe I need this and not that. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then you use this. And this is such a powerful way to affect our emotions and how we feel and our mental state, because that is ultimately going to control everything that we do.
Yeah.
Because if you're not positive about it, if you're like feeling sorry for yourself, if you're talking down to yourself, not to mention that, like you're breaking down your confidence instead of lifting you up. And that is just, that is a recipe to nothing happening.
Yeah. And that really you can take in lots of scenarios. It's not just about going to the gym or whatever, it's.
No, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I will try that.
Taking you on a therapy session here. No.
Yeah.
No, but this is, one big thing, because this is something that I feel very strongly about. There are so many, especially young women, and this carries sometimes throughout our whole lives, is this lack of confidence, this lack of self-belief, this like, I need to make myself smaller physically and, mentally and everything, in every kind of way. And this feels like, of course, men struggle with confidence too, but not in the same way. It's not in the same way. So I see this so often. So it's like, it's been my mission to just help build, especially young girls up. And this is a part of that. Like, how do we talk to ourselves? How do we talk about ourselves? What do you say to yourself? How many times a day do you like, oh, I'm so clumsy. Oh, I can't do anything right. Oh, I always mess everything up. Like, these sentences, I bet every single woman listening to me is like, yeah, I said this 3 times today. Any of these, and this is just chipping away at our confidence. If you talk to yourself, just imagine if you had someone following you around all day that would speak to you like that. How would you feel at the end of the day? And we're doing this ourselves. So here we're not just talking about going to the gym. This is something we need to decide on: uplifting, motivating self-talk. How am I going to talk to myself? I have to stop saying these things to myself, because it might just feel like it doesn't matter. But over and over and over again. Like if you have a drop of water falling on a rock, like dripping, it's going to make a hole in that rock eventually. And this is exactly what it does to our confidence.
Yeah. What would you say to women that, there are some women out there that are very confident and they do a lot of positive self-talk and all of that. But then sometimes you get the backlash. Oh, she's too confident. She's, got attitude. She's when you're outspoken, you end up being accused of being too angry or too whatever, all these things. Then you have all these things chipping away at you when you are confident.
Yeah.
Some people get that as well. So how do you confront that, and how do you kind of not listen to all of those voices coming in?
I mean, my experience, no, exactly what you described there is something that I've experienced firsthand through all of my life. And my experience has been that I have rarely, if ever, been criticized by anyone who has done more than me.
Yeah.
Usually, this comes from somebody that I don't want to say that it's always jealousy, because it feels like that is just, it's easy to write it off as jealousy. But I think sometimes when you see someone and you wish you could do what they're doing, then, it can make you feel frustrated and angry. And sometimes we don't get that this frustration and anger is actually towards ourselves and not that person. So a lot of this that is going to come at you is not meant for you. It's not yours.
Yeah.
It's about that person. So when you hear stuff like that, of course, it's always good and it's healthy to think, okay, is there a truth in this? Am I maybe a little too loud? Was I too aggressive? Or was it just speaking my mind? Was this okay? Or is there maybe some truth in this? Like, take a look at that criticism and just, okay, do I agree with this? Could this be right? Yeah, okay, maybe. Then I need to check myself. But if somebody's just bothered because I am going after my dreams and I, have my boundaries and I stand by what I believe in, that's not my problem. That is not mine. This is about that person and not me. And I can't be responsible for other people's feelings, really. Like, not in that sense. Like, if you lack confidence and it bothers you that I have it, I can't help you. So I think this realization that sometimes the shit that get thrown at you is not yours. It's not about you. I know it can still bother you and I know it can still hurt, but it really has helped me to realize this and also take a look at a little bit like, who is this person? Is this somebody that I would ask for advice? If not, then I don't have to take their criticism either.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I mean by that. Like, rarely do you get stuff like this from people that have done more than you. And if they have, then it's probably good advice.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, yeah, I was at like a conference thing a few days ago, and one of the guys presenting, he was talking about money, and he, usually when you're if whoever you are, you're driving around in a really flash car or something, and then you people looking, thinking, oh, what an arsehole, whatever. But then usually if it's someone like more successful than that person, it's like, oh yeah, good on them. They're doing really well for themselves. Hopefully, that's great. They're successful. They're whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. That is like, this is something like, if I see somebody driving a really fancy car, that is not a reason for me to hate on them if they're like, unless they're like driving like idiots. I don't know. But like just somebody in a nice car is like, oh, wow, you've done well for yourself. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So that is not something to hate on. If somebody's doing well, like if you want to be clapped for when you do well, then you clap for other people.
Yeah.
You are not lifting yourself up by tearing other people down. Absolutely not. It's rather the opposite. So we all got to check ourselves also in this, not just think about how other people are talking to you, but do I do this? Do I hate on other people that are more successful than me? And if I do, why is that? Is it because I want that success? Then I got to do the work. I can do it too. I can get that for myself, but I got to do the work and I got to get there.
Yeah.
It's not going to help me to just hate on somebody that has done the work. That's not going to do anything.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, that great advice for sure. I think the mind is a very powerful tool, and if you use it correctly, you can achieve so much. But like you said, unfortunately, a lot of people don't use it correctly because of lots of reasons, society, the way we're brought up, culture, tradition, family, friends.
Yeah.
There's so much, that we're infiltrated by. And if we just gave ourselves a chance to do that positive self-talk and change our narrative for ourselves, a lot of things can change. And I'm saying this very, easily like I am, but I do that talk as well, where I'm like, like I said, oh, I'm tired, or oh, I'm feeling lazy, or the other one that you said, I'm clumsy. I'm always saying that to myself. I'm so clumsy. I'm so clumsy. And I'm going to stop that now, actually, because it's just pointless. It's not achieving anything, to be honest. It's not getting me anywhere, because then I always am clumsy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about it like this. Okay, just that you do something. Let's say you're reaching for something, you knock over a glass of water.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm so clumsy. Why do I always do this?
Yeah.
Okay, just think about that scenario. How does that make you feel? Not very good. It's like it's somebody like barks at you. You're barking at yourself, essentially, but it does not make you feel very good. Now let's rewind. Same thing happens. You're reaching for something, you knock over a glass of water. You're like, oops, I made a mistake. I'm going to be more careful in the future. Neutral.
Yeah.
No harm done. No problem. And what happens? You don't tear yourself down, and you are actually, oh, okay, I'm going to be more careful. That's, and you probably will be.
Yeah.
But you're not going to feel this, like, it's not going to chip away. It's a small stone that is chipping away, but it's still chipping away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And usually it's even worse. It's like, I am worthless. I am fat. I can't do anything right. Like, I am not successful enough. I'm not, beautiful enough. I'm not enough anything.
Yeah.
Usually it's something like that. And that's even worse. That's like taking a big chunk of stone from that wall,
Yeah. And like you said, it's the small things that add up to get you to that, probably, I'm not enough for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't realize until, you're in it. And then even when you're in it, you don't realize, because that's just your loop. You're just in that loop, the constant loop.
That's the thing. We rarely stop to notice, what we're thinking, how we're feeling, why we are feeling and thinking the way that we do. Like, we rarely do this. And this was just mind blowing for me. I mean, in the first part of my career as an athlete, I was, I had such a big temper. I still do, but I've learned to manage it. But it would take me places. Like, I would go into a negative spiral. I couldn't control myself. I would make myself feel so bad. And then I started working with a sports psychologist. And when she introduced this idea to me that I could affect my thoughts by deciding things that I was going to say to myself and then just repeat that sentence, and then I felt the difference, and I could decide ahead of time how I was going to react to a certain situation that I knew was coming. Like, let's say I was going to a training session, and it's like, okay, if it's a bad training session, then I'm going to say this to myself if I start throwing a little bad. And it had such a huge effect on me, because I had always believed, and I know a lot of us do, because I hear this so often, this is just who I am. I can't change who I am. These are just the cards that I was dealt. But that is not true. And it was just, mind blowing when I realized that, and when I felt that. And it's like, okay, I can actually, this sounds very woo-woo probably, but you can work on yourself, and you can affect how you respond in certain situation, and thereby how you behave. But it takes this self-reflection. What it took for me was to take a look at, okay, what am I saying to myself? Why do I feel like this when I start throwing bad? That everything is just hopeless and I'm miserable and I can't do anything right and all of this. And then I realized all the horrendous things I was saying to myself. And that's where it came from. So I had to turn that around. But I never really thought about it. It was just a reflex. It just started as soon as I was in that situation. And then, of course, I felt horrible, and I threw worse, and then I felt worse, and then I threw even worse, and I felt even worse. Like, it was just a spiral. And just this, stopping a little bit. And both, for realizing your feelings and how you're talking to yourself. But also, as I mentioned before, this, what do I want to do in life? What are my priorities in life right now? And what is important to me? Where do I want to be in 10 years? What do I want to do with my life? To give yourself a little bit of space to just get to know yourself a little bit. And so few do that, like really do that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at the moment, I'm quite big on this whole kind of self-discovery thing. I think you really
Yeah.
like, in the sense that, you need to take some time out of your life to think about where you're at and what you want and how you're going to get it, and so on, because we rarely do that. We just kind of go along in life doing the usual on the hamster wheel, the typical go to work, come back, eat, sleep, repeat kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whatever else that might be. And rarely people take a step back and have a think, hold on, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? What do I want? Who am I? And, these kinds of things.
Yeah, just what matters to me, what are my values, and what do I, just that kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask you, what would be your, top 3 pieces of advice to women that really, they have a goal that they want to achieve. Okay. Let's get to the goal phase. There's something that they want to do. What would be the steps to get them to start doing it and finish doing it? I know that's quite vague, but imagine, a woman that's got things, they've got caring responsibilities, or they've got stuff going on in their life, but they still want to do this one thing or 2-3 things, whatever it is. What top 3 pieces of advice would you give for them to get going and stay consistent and actually achieve that goal?
Yeah, well, the first thing would be what I talked about before, is realize why you want to do it. And then, I mean, really going deep. I've heard, I don't know if you've heard about this method that I learned a few years ago. It's called the 7 layers of why.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So you ask yourself, okay, why do I want to train 5 times a week? Because I want to get healthier. Why do you want to get healthier? Oh, I want to get healthier so I will feel better, when I'm older. Why do you want to feel better when you're older? I want to feel better then because I want to have good quality of life. Why do you want to have good quality of life? And you really do it, and you do it 7 times. Then you have really gotten to the core of the issue. Then you get to okay, I want to live a long and fulfilling life, and I want to be able to do things with my kids. And I want to, even when I'm 70, I had kids late, so I'm going to have to be 70. I want to be able to, play with my grandkids. Yeah. Hopefully my boys have kids earlier than I did. No, so I'm facing this reality. I mean, I am 38 years old. I'm turning 39 in a few months. I just had my kids. The older one is not even 3 years old, and the younger one is 1.5. You do the math, it's intense in my house. No, but that means that if I will have grandkids, I will be an older grandmother. I will probably rather old when I have those kids. And what is important for me, and I'm just sharing my big why of why I'm moving, I want to be able to play with my boys. I was in Iceland, where I come from now, on vacation. I actually just came back 2 days ago, and we went to a swimming pool, and my 3-year-old wanted to go to the water slide, and they had a big slide. And I was running up and down with him because he's too small to ride it himself, but he really wanted to. So he was sitting in my lap, and I was going over and over and over and over again with him. There's not a lot of women my age that would do that.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that I want to do. And my in-laws helped me so much when it was really intense with my 2 boys. I want to do that for them if I can. And if I'm going to be able to do that at, I don't know, 60, 70 something, then I better stay in shape. And then I better stay active, and I better take good care of myself. And this is what matters. And that is my strong why. And if I go 7 layers of why, I will get to this. That's why I'm going to training today. That's why I'm putting on my shoes and getting going.
Yeah.
So that's the first one, 7 layers of why, because then you have that motivation. Mm-hmm. And then you want to make it a habit. I mean, it depends on a little bit if you have a goal that is the goal that you talked about is more of a habit thing, because it's like, it's not really something that's far away. It's something you can do today, but it's about doing it over and over again. But if you have like a big goal that is far away, like let's say you want to finish some studies and you want to get some job, or you want to climb up in your job in the rankings, you want to get somewhere, and it's far away, then you want to break it down into milestones. Mm-hmm. And you want to do a plan. You want to plan out how to get there so that you know, because it might seem very far away. So then you know, okay, what do I need to do now? And even if it seems very, very small, because it's the small steps that matter. It's just like when we talk down to ourselves, the drop that will make a hole in the stone. When we take small steps consistently, it will count. I can tell you, I'm going off on a tangent here, but when I was 10 years old, I said I wanted to go to the Olympics. Wow. Can you imagine, for a 10-year-old, I'm going to go to the Olympics? It's like, okay, where do I even start? What do I do? It's nothing spectacular. I just go to training today. That's it. We think that just because the goal is spectacular, every step to get there has to be spectacular, but it's not. It's the mundane, little boring steps that are going to get us there. Yeah. If we do them consistently, that is the key. So if you break it down to these tiny, tiny little steps that are so small that they just take a few minutes, and then you just commit to doing it. So if you have this big goal, you have to break it down all the way down to these small steps so that it's not overwhelming. And then you got to make these steps a habit. That is so big. Like, it's so often that, especially with like weight loss goals or something, people have a date. Like, I want to lose this many kilos by the end of the year. And then what? Yeah. Is your life over at the end of the year? Yeah. What happens then? Yeah. So and we're always in so much rush. Like, it has to happen now. Like, I'm going to lose 5 kilos a month for the rest of the year. Why? It's better. Like, and then people start getting desperate. They start to maybe starve themselves, train too much, something that you're like, oh, you're white knuckling through it. You're holding your breath just to get through the end of the year. What happens? You go, and you can't anymore. And then you gain all the weight right back. It's better to make good habits that will get you to the life that you want, whether it is staying active or getting a position, getting a job, playing with your kids, playing with your grandkids, whatever it is that you want to do. You want to not hold your breath for that date. You want to make it so that you can do it always. You make a new lifestyle instead of like this challenge, this 12-week challenge or something. Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm shitting over a lot of challenges, but it's just this like, I'm going to change all of my life and I'm going to be dying for X amount of time. But what then?
You know what?
What happens the day after?
Yeah, you're so right. I never thought of it like that, because you're right. I see these challenges as well, like 30-day challenge for whatever that thing is. Yeah. Not just to do with weight loss, but it could be literally anything. People do challenges for all sorts of things, but then it's like, but then what? And you're so right. I know that sounds really obvious what you've just said. It probably does to maybe people listening, but it's just like something's just connected in my brain, and I've just thought, hold on a minute. No, actually, it's not a 30-day challenge. It's a lifetime kind of thing, really, because you don't want to like do that X thing for 30 days and then be like, okay, now what? Or, right, 30-day challenge every day, all the time for the whole year. It's like, and then what?
Exactly. And I mean, challenges can be fine because they can be a way to kickstart yourself into like making that habit, because you need to really focus on it for the first 30 or 60 days, depending on who you listen to make it a habit. But so you really need to focus on it. But if the challenge is like, okay, now you cut down to 1,200 calories a day because you're going to lose this much weight in these 30 days. No, It has to be about making the habit, not about taking some extreme measures to get this one result on that day.
Yeah.
Because then what?
Yeah.
That's why I was talking about your goal with like, okay, I want to go 5 times a week to the gym or workout or whatever you do. It's not working. I can't get there. It's clearly a little unrealistic for your life as it looks like right now. You have to build up to it. Once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. If you start in a place where you're like, this is no problem.
Yeah.
Start with something that you can do, whether that's once or twice a week. And then you do that for a few weeks. And then you add 1 day. And then you do that for a few weeks. And then you add 1 day. So the 5 times a week goal might not be this week. And it might not be next week. It could be 6 months from now. And that's just as good instead of trying for that goal for 6 months and still not being there.
Yeah.
Because that's usually what happens when we shoot too high, or you're just like, screw it. I can't do it anyway. Just forget about this. I'll just train whenever I feel like, and I don't have time for this. It's either one of those two that is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Absolutely. And then what's your final one? Was there a final one, or did you?
No, it was the 7 layers of why.
Yeah.
And then it's the milestones all the way down to small steps. And then it is making habits out of these small steps.
Right.
These are my 3. That was a weird way to show them 3 fingers, but okay, we're not on video. So I would say that these are my 3 big ones. And also just want to give everybody the advice of getting to know yourself. Get to know yourself. Take the time to get to know you, how you feel about certain things, what is important to you, what matters most to you in life, what are your priorities, and how do you think and why do you think this way? How do you feel about certain things and why do you feel like this? Just get to know yourself, because you're gonna realize so much about yourself. I was forced to do this a lot when I had kids, because you're like meeting this, tiny little super annoying version of yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, I always said to my husband, it's like looking into a tiny little super annoying mirror.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, he's just like me. I have to treat him the way that I would want to be treated. And guess what? It worked. I can't react like my first, impulse is to react when I get frustrated when he's throwing a tantrum. Like, I need to really sit with it and, okay, why is this triggering me? Oh, it's because I am exactly like him. He's just a mini version of me. And I know exactly how he feels. And because I know how he feels, I know what he needs. So I got to give him what he needs and not what my impulse is to react because I'm triggered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and this takes, I can tell you, a lot of self-reflection. Doesn't work every time. I also want to add that I'm not perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I think, look, a lot of these things, it's a long process and it's a continuous process. It's not a start and an end. Things change, your life changes, environments change, whatever. And you always kind of reiterating, I guess, or pivoting, whatever, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
And taking those things into consideration. I think absolutely you do need to start thinking about you.
Yeah.
In whatever way that is. But and then thinking about what you want and how you're going to get it, I guess.
Yeah, it needs to start with you, because everything else comes from that. If you know yourself, then you can deal with whatever is happening because you understand yourself and your reactions well enough so that you can affect them, so that it will be beneficial to you. It's like, okay, I can't seem to achieve this goal here. Why is that? Oh, it's because this goal is not lighting me up and setting me on fire, because it's not something that I really want. It's something that everybody else tells me I should want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also accepting that life is, flowing. It's different. It changes. And I talked about this is the season of life I'm in right now. Like I have a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. I just happen to not have a lot of time for myself right now. That doesn't mean that I will never have time for myself, or I hope not, for the rest of my life, but it's just, this is the way that it is now. And then I'm going to do my best with what I have right now. And I need to know, okay, what is most important to me in this season of my life? And then I will, organize everything accordingly.
Yeah.
And that is going to change next year and the year after that and the year after that. And I mean, even just for me, as I mentioned, I'm giving talks. I'm giving these motivational talks about mindset and goal setting. And guess what? Most people are interested in mindset and goal setting in the fall and in January. So I give a lot of talks in like September, October, and then January, February. But most of the year, like the other parts of the year, are kind of quiet. So I get these intense sessions of work in these seasons. So there's like, okay, I have a lot to do right now, and I have to travel. I'm going back and forth and to Iceland, and so it's a lot. But then I come home and it's quiet, and then I go again, and then and then it's like, okay, what are my priorities? And even take it down to this, like this month, next month, because it changes.
Yeah.
So not everybody has maybe month to month kind of fluctuations, but you know what I mean? And it's just to accept, like, okay, I talk about sleep so much because sleep is so important for us. And then usually everybody who has small kids gets angry with me because like, oh, we should sleep 7 to 9 hours. I can't do that. It's like, no, that's because you're in that season of life where there's this tiny little human that is keeping you up all night. That's not going to be the rest of your life. You just need to do the best you can right now, and don't feel bad because you're not getting 7 to 9 hours. Just sleep when you can sleep as much as you can, rest when you can. But once that season is over, then you might want to focus a little bit more on that, because then you're going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think also that, there's this whole thing, with instant gratification, like we want everything now. And then, I'm guilty of it as well. I'm not going to sit here and deny that I don't. Of course I do that, I want, my everything I do with the podcast, all my events, everything, I want everything now, and then the frustration sets in, and then the negative talk sets in, and then all these things. And it really is about taking a step back and observing yourself, I guess.
Yeah, but that's the thing. There is no such thing as perfect.
No.
Perfect doesn't exist. We all do this. The goal is not to never feel like this. The goal is to respond in a constructive way when you do.
Right.
That's the goal. It's not like, okay, I'm never going to say a negative thing to myself ever again. Because you will.
Yeah.
We all do. You just try to make it less and less. And when you do, you catch yourself and think, oh no, I'm not going into that spiral. That's the goal. It's not to try to be perfect and to never be negative and always go to the gym and do everything perfectly. And that's also the thing when you're working towards a goal. It's not going to be perfect. It's just not. But it doesn't have to be all of the time. It just needs to be most of the time. And then you will get the results.
That's great. No, honestly, that's such great advice and stuff that I definitely need to think about myself as well. I'm sure lots of people do. We get caught up in life, and the frustration sets in and things like that. And like you said, and you're so right, it's not about not feeling anything. We're all going to have negative feelings and all sorts of feelings. It's just about acknowledging them and catching them and changing the narrative as much as we can. But feelings will come and go, and they will be negative, definitely.
Yeah, that's just how it goes.
Yeah. Thank you, Ásdis. Thank you so much for being on the Empower podcast. It's been great to have you on. Thanks so much for all the advice, all the inspiration. It's been great.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. And now I'm all fired up. We're gonna get so much done here in the next, hour before the boys wake up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, it was great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to Empower Her. I hope today's episode has left you feeling inspired and motivated to make a positive difference in your world. Please follow the podcast and share it with anyone who will find it helpful. Until next time, keep striving for positive change and greatness for all women.